A setback is never the end. It's God's setup for something greater. That's a truth that many people overlook when life knocks them down. You see, when you hit a wall, when you stumble into a valley, when you find yourself at a dead end, it can feel like the story is over. It can feel like the curtain has dropped and there's nothing left to expect but defeat. But in reality, what looks like the end from your point of view is often just the beginning from God's point of view. A setback is not a period at the end of your sentence. It's a comma. It's a pause. It's a redirection. It's heaven's way of preparing you for a scene you couldn't have scripted yourself. Think about it. Every person who has ever achieved something remarkable in life has faced a setback. The difference is they didn't treat the setback as their burial ground. They treated it as a classroom, a place to learn, to grow, and to be positioned for the next chapter. Joseph in the Bible is a perfect example. Thrown into a pit by his brothers, sold into slavery, wrongly accused, and locked up in prison. Those were setbacks by every definition. But each of those disappointments was really a divine setup. God was positioning Joseph, step by step, to be in the palace, to save a nation, and to fulfill a destiny far greater than the pit he was thrown into. If Joseph had given up in the pit, he never would have reached the palace. The same principle applies to your life. You may be facing financial struggles, broken relationships, rejection, or health battles. You may feel like you've been sidelined while everyone else is running their race. But here's what you need to understand. The setback is not designed to stop you. It's designed to shape you. It's working on your character, building your resilience, stretching your faith, and sharpening your vision. Without the setback, you wouldn't be ready for the setup. You wouldn't be equipped for the perennial doors God is preparing to open. It's like a bow and arrow. When the arrow is pulled back, it looks like it's going in the wrong direction. It's being drawn away from the target. But the farther it's pulled back, the greater the force and distance when it's finally released. That pullback, that setback, isn't punishment, it's preparation. The tension you're feeling, the resistance you're facing, the delay you're enduring, is only building up the power for your launch. When God releases you, you won't just stumble forward, you'll soar. Many people quit right in the middle of their setback. They assume the pain means the plan has failed. But if you could only see what's on the other side, you'd realize that what looks like loss is often the seed of your breakthrough. You don't plant a seed and call it death just because it goes into the ground. You wait, you water it, you trust that what's buried will rise again. In the same way, your goals, your future may feel buried beneath failure and frustration, but if you stay faithful, they will rise stronger than before. The difference between those who turn setbacks into comebacks and those who stay stuck is perspective. One person says, "This is the end." Another says, "This is the beginning of something I can't see yet." One focuses on the closed door. The other trusts that God is already opening another. One lets pain become their prison. The other lets pain become their platform. The truth is, God doesn't waste anything. Every tear, every delay, every rejection, every moment of struggle, it's all being woven into a bigger plan, one that will leave you stronger, wiser, and better prepared than if you had never fallen in the first place. So when life hits you with a setback, don't hang your head in despair. Don't let fear and doubt write the last chapter of your story. Instead, lift your head high, square your shoulders, and remind yourself that this is not the end. It's a setup. It's a stage being prepared for your comeback. You may not understand it right now, but in time you'll look back and see how every disappointment positioned you, how every detour redirected you, and how every setback set you up for something greater than you could have imagined. Because the God who raised Jesus from the grave is still in the business of turning what looks like defeat into victory. If he can turn a crucifixion into a resurrection, he can turn your setback into your greatest comeback. All you have to do is hold on, keep the faith, and trust that the end of your strength is the beginning of his power. Your greatest comebacks are born out of your deepest challenges. It's a paradox of life that the very moments we wish we could erase are often the same moments that shape us into who we're meant to become. Nobody grows on the mountaintop. Growth happens in the valley. The sunshine feels good, but it's the storm that teaches you how to stand. The comfort zone may be easy, but it's the conflict zone that forges courage, resilience, and character. The truth is, The weight of your challenges is the very pressure that produces the strength for your comeback. Without those struggles, you wouldn't have the capacity to rise higher than before. Look at history and scripture, and you'll see a common thread. The greatest victories were always preceded by the hardest battles. David didn't become king without first facing Goliath. Moses didn't lead Israel without first confronting Pharaoh. Even Jesus didn't step into resurrection glory without enduring the cross. Each of these moments of challenge looked like the end. To the human eye, it seemed impossible. But those very challenges became the soil out of which the comeback grew. That's why you must never despise your struggles, because hidden inside them is the seed of your next breakthrough. When you face deep challenges, you're being stretched beyond what you thought you could endure. And yes, it's painful. Yes, it's uncomfortable. But the stretching is necessary. Just like a muscle has to be torn before it grows stronger, your spirit sometimes has to be tested before it can be elevated. Challenges tear down pride, strip away distractions, and force you to depend on something greater than yourself. They make you realize that human strength alone won't carry you. And it's in that realization that find the supernatural strength to rise again. Think about a diamond. It starts as a lump of coal, dark and unremarkable. But under heat and pressure, it's transformed into something valuable, brilliant, and strong. Your deepest challenges are the heat and pressure in your life. They may not look glamorous, but they are forming a diamond within you. When you rise from those struggles, you don't come back the same. You come back stronger, wiser, tougher, and more radiant than before. Sometimes we pray for a comeback without wanting the challenge that gives birth to it. But the truth is, comebacks don't come cheap. They are forged in the fires of disappointment, in the nights of sleepless tears, in the hours of silent battles nobody sees. Yet when you emerge, you're not just restored, you're renewed. You carry a testimony that can inspire others, a story that gives hope, and a resilience that can't be shaken by the next storm. Your deepest challenge may be rejection. You may have been turned away, overlooked, or betrayed by people you trusted. It hurts, but it's in that hurt that you discover who you really are apart from others' approval. Your comeback is born in realizing you don't need validation from people when you've already been chosen by God. Your deepest challenge may be failure. Maybe your plans collapsed, your career stalled, or your dreams were crushed. But failure isn't final. It's feedback. It shows you what doesn't work so you can refine your approach and rise with more wisdom than before. There's a reason so many powerful stories start with pain. The addict who overcame his struggle, the athlete who came back after an injury, the parent who rebuilt after loss. Each one shows that the greater the challenge, the greater the comeback. The weight of your story's beginning doesn't determine the glory of its ending. What looks like devastation today can be the very soil of destiny tomorrow. Even in your darkest hour, when it feels like you've hit rock bottom, remember that rock bottom is still solid ground. And sometimes it's when you're down there that you finally find the foundation strong enough to build again. The pit you're in today can be the platform you stand on tomorrow. The challenge that's draining you right now can be the very fuel that pushes you into your next level. So don't run from your challenges. Face them head on, knowing that they are not there to destroy you but to develop you. Your comeback is waiting on the other side of your endurance. Every tear, every battle, every moment of pain is preparing you for a future that will make sense of it all. And when you rise, you won't just rise for yourself. You'll rise as a beacon for others still in their valley, showing them that comebacks are possible, that challenges can be overcome, and that the darkest night always gives birth to the brightest dawn. Faith turns obstacles into opportunities and trials into triumphs. That's the beauty of living with a perspective bigger than your problems. When faith enters the picture, what looks like a wall becomes a doorway. What seems like a burden becomes a blessing. And what feels like a defeat becomes the foundation for your next victory. Faith doesn't deny the reality of obstacles. It simply refuses to let them have the last word. Faith sees beyond the immediate pain, beyond the current setback, and locks its eyes on the promise that something greater is being worked out behind the scenes. When an obstacle stands in your way, fear says, "Stop, you can't get past this." But faith says, "This obstacle is my stepping stone. It's here to lift me higher." Every challenge you face is an invitation to grow, an opportunity to trust, and a chance to see what you're really made of. Faith transformed the obstacle from being an enemy to being an ally because it shifts your perspective. Instead of asking, why me? Faith asks, what's next? What am I supposed to learn? How will this be used for my good? Think about the Red Sea moment in the book of Exodus. Israel was trapped between Pharaoh's army and the water in front of them. From a human standpoint, it was hopeless. An obstacle stood in their way that could not be crossed. But faith in the God who had already brought them out of slavery, turned that obstacle into an opportunity. What looked like a dead end became a highway. What looked like a trap became a testimony. The Red Sea didn't destroy them, it destroyed their enemy and propelled them into freedom. That's what faith does. It changes how you interpret the impossible. Trials, too, can feel like unbearable weights. They come in the form of sickness, loss, rejection, failure, or betrayal. They test your patience, your endurance, and your hope. Without faith, trials can crush you. But with faith, trials refine you. Gold isn't purified in calm weather, it's purified in fire. Trials are the fire that burn off weakness, doubt, and pride, leaving behind a stronger, more focused version of you. Faith is what allows you to walk through the fire without being consumed, to come out not smelling like smoke but shining brighter than before. When life throws trials your way, faith tells you that this is not punishment, it's preparation. It's not the end of your story, it's a chapter of development. Trials are classrooms, and faith is the teacher that shows you how to pass the test. Every time you endure a trial with faith, you graduate to a new level of strength and resilience. Without trials, you'd never know how strong your faith really is. Without struggles, you'd never discover the depth of what you carry inside. Faith is not about ignoring reality. It's about interpreting reality through a higher lens. It says, yes, I see the mountain, I also know the mountain mover. Yes, I feel the pain, but I also believe in the healer. Yes, I face a setback, but I trust in the God of comebacks. With that perspective, nothing in life is wasted. Every obstacle becomes an opening, every trial becomes training, and every failure becomes fertilizer for future growth. This is why people with faith can smile in storms, keep moving in valleys, and hold their peace in battles. They know the storm is temporary, but the lessons it brings are eternal. They understand that valleys aren't permanent, they're passages. They grasp that battles don't just drain you, they shape you into a warrior. Faith doesn't make life easier, but it makes life purposeful. And when you live with purpose, even your pain becomes powerful. Think about your own life. Maybe you've been through disappointments that left scars. Maybe you're facing obstacles that feel too big to move. Maybe trials have left you weary and worn. But if you hold on to faith, you'll discover that none of it has been in vain. The very things that tried to bury you can become the platform that lifts you. The very trials that tested you can become the testimony that blesses others. Faith is the difference between being crushed by life and being crafted by it. It is the anchor that holds you steady when the winds of adversity blow. It is the lens that shows you opportunity in every obstacle and triumph in every trial. And when you live by faith, you don't just survive challenges, you thrive because of them. Don't let your fall fawn you, let your rise refine you. Every person stumbles, every person fails, every person has moments when life knocks them flat on their face. Falling isn't the issue. Staying down is. The fall doesn't write your story unless you hand it the pen. What truly matters is what happens after the fall, how you rise, how you rebuild, how you allow that experience to shape you into someone stronger, wiser, and more determined than before. Too many people allow their failures to become their identity. They wear their mistakes like a name tag. Divorced, unqualified, addict, failure. They rehearse the story of the downfall so much that they forget the possibility of their rise. But here's the truth, your failure is an event, not a definition. What you did is not who you are, what happened is not all there is. The fall is a chapter, but the book isn't finished. If you let it, your rise can take that same chapter and turn it into the most powerful part of your story. Think about Peter in the Bible. He was bold, passionate, and outspoken. Yet when the pressure came, he denied even knowing Jesus. 3 times he fell in fear, 3 times he failed the test. That could have been the end of his story. He could have let the shame define him forever. But after the resurrection, when grace found him, Peter rose again. And that same man who denied Jesus became the man who preached boldly on the day of Pentecost, leading thousands to faith. His fall didn't define him. His rise refined him into a leader who understood both weakness and grace. Your rise will never erase your past, but it can redeem it. The scars don't disappear, but they become reminders of how far you've come. The mistakes don't vanish, but become lessons that guide your future. Rising doesn't mean pretending you never fell. It means standing taller because of what you learned in the fall. When you rise, you carry wisdom that only comes from experience. You carry compassion for others who fall because you know what it feels like to be there. You carry resilience that can't be shaken because you've already been to the bottom and found the strength to climb back up. The refining process isn't easy. Rising requires courage, humility, and patience. It demands that you face your pain instead of running from it. It challenges you to forgive yourself, to release the weight of regret, and to embrace the possibility of a new beginning. Refinement happens in the fire, and sometimes the fire is uncomfortable. But just as gold shines brighter after it's refined, you will shine brighter after you've risen from your fall. There will always be voices trying to remind you of the fall. People may label you by your lowest moment. Circumstances may replay the memory of your mistakes. But the final word isn't theirs to give. It's yours. You get to decide whether to find your identity or whether your rise will refine your destiny. And the truth is, people don't remember you for the fall. They remember you for the comeback. They don't celebrate your scars. They celebrate the strength it took to heal from them. In every rise, there's a choice. You can stay bitter or grow better. You can wallow in regret or walk in renewal. You can replay the pain or you can rewrite the future. Your rise isn't automatic, it's intentional. You have to decide that the story doesn't end with your fall. You have to choose to get back up, dust yourself off, and step forward with determination. Maybe your fall was public, maybe it was private. Maybe it shook your confidence. Maybe it broke your heart. But don't hand that fall the authority to write your life story. Take back the pen. Write a new chapter. Let the rise be louder than the fall. Let the growth outweigh the mistake. And let the comeback outshine the breakdown. Because ultimately, the measure of your life isn't whether you fell. It's how you rose. Greatness isn't found in never stumbling. It's found in rising again and again until the fall no longer has the power to hold you down. Your legacy won't be built on your failures, but on your resilience, your strength, your courage to rise, and the way your rise refined you into the person you were always meant to be.